Good morning, everyone. So we are starting week 2 in our series titled Let Worry Die. Let Worry Die, back to Eden, or returning back to Eden. And the heart of this series is really looking at how do we genuinely trust the Lord in such a way that we don't wake up anxious all the time, that we don't wake up worried all the time, that we don't go to bed and lay in bed at night and think about all the horrible things that could go wrong in our lives and then not be able to sleep because we're panicked and we think that we're alone in life and that we have to all do this just by ourselves. How do we walk through life and genuinely allow worry to die in our lives? And last week we looked at basically, what does trusting God look like, and how do we know if we are really trusting Him or not? And one of the important things to know is that trust isn't all or nothing. It's not like there's some people in the room that you have zero trust in God, and there's other people in the room that used to 100% trust in God, and then there's nobody in between. Odds are all of us are kind of somewhere on that scale at all times. And that looking at Psalms and looking at Isaiah, we realize that when I have the presence of a lot of worry and persistent anxiety and fear in my life, that's evidence that I'm not trusting God, either with my life as a whole or with a specific situation. Because in Isaiah 26:3, it says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." In Psalm 112, we looked at it talks about the man who's not fearing bad news. His heart is firm, or his heart is steadfast. Why? Because he's trusting in the Lord. And so as you and I have a deep fear of bad news, which I'll be the first to admit, right? Okay, that's evidence to me that I'm not really trusting in the Lord. So there's this inverse relationship where when worry's going up, trust is most likely going down. And as my trust in the Lord's going up, worry and anxiety in my life should be going down. And so the real key to allowing worry to die is to trust in the Lord. It is to trust in Him. And the evidence to me of whether I'm really trusting in Him or not is how is the anxiety and the worry and the fear and all this stuff in my life operating. And if I got a lot of it, it's not reason for condemnation. It's just I should have an awareness that means I'm not trusting God. And if I'm just anxious about everything, I'm probably not trusting God with anything. If I'm anxious about a specific situation, probably not trusting God with that situation. And so last week was about the fact that peace really is possible for you and I, that we really can have peace like God's promised us through trust in Him. And this week I want to cover one of, if not the main thing that allows worry to thrive in our lives. Because I feel like worry never just naturally dies out. You know what I mean? Like your desire to go to the gym or to eat healthy or whatever else, you got to work to usually keep that going, right? Because then you see some Chick-fil-A or you see some Ben & Jerry's or you see some Burger King if you're me. Like steak dinner or give me a Whopper. I'm taking the Whopper, all right? But all these, like, you never have to be like, oh yeah, I got to make sure I keep worry alive because it was really fading out, you know? Like worry's thriving all the time. You know, it is. Like we have to work at trying to stamp it out, but it's just like it's having a banner year every year. And so one of the things, if not the main thing, that keeps my worry alive and that keeps your worry alive and your fear of the future alive and all these other things that keep us up at night, that wake us up in the middle of the night, that are on our minds 24/7 as we go about our day. The main thing is my will and your will. That causes worry to thrive. That causes anxiety to just have its best year yet every single year. Is my will and your will. My wants, my desires, my agenda, the way I want my life to go, the way I want my family or my kids' lives to go, or the way you want things at work to go. It's my will. And I want to sidebar for just a second and talk about the main cause, just from like a psychological perspective, of anxiety in our lives and worry and fear. And that is the presence of uncertainty. I was looking at a paper, a psychology paper the other day. I don't do that randomly. I was doing it for the message, but don't think I'm just out here reading, PubMed or anything like that. But it actually characterizes different types of anxiety disorders in different degrees of severity based on what's called intolerance to uncertainty, or IU for short. So as your intolerance to uncertainty, your lack of ability to handle uncertainty goes up, your level of anxiety and different types of anxious disorders also rise and are characterized by that standard. And so the main reason you and I as humans experience all this worry and this anxiousness is because there's a future out there from 5 seconds in front of us to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 years in front of us that we don't know. And guess what our brains hate? Not knowing stuff. Like if you don't know stuff, your brain will fill in gaps to try to prevent you from knowing that you don't know stuff. So much so, I say this and I feel like about every message, but I enjoy podcasts of varying degrees and different kinds. But they were talking about this at one point in time and just how much we as humans hate uncertainty. So much so, and this is crazy, but if you think about it, it's true. So much so that we would rather almost all the time have a fatal illness but have certainty and just know it, than to be sick and just not know what it is. Now, I'm not talking about like you have a cold for 4 days and you're like, is this, COVID, or is this the flu, or is this some mystery virus that we all get now, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like a prolonged illness that the doctor just can't figure out what it is. No idea if it's going to take your life or you're going to get better or if it's serious or not serious. But as humans, almost all the time, we say, I'll take the fatal illness over just not knowing what I have. Because of how much we hate, our brains hate uncertainty. They hate uncertainty. And so the way that plays into my will and your will, right? Because we're talking about why is my will one of the main things that causes anxiety in my life and worry in my life? My will, my emotions, my agenda, the way I want life to go is because my will is a prediction of what I want my future to be without the certainty that future will come true. And so then there's worry because I have something that I want or something that I'm trying to avoid without the assurance that I will attain that thing or without the assurance that I will be able to avoid that thing. Why do you worry about your kids? Because there's something I want for them in the future. A good job, a good career, a good spouse. Hopefully you want them saved. I want these things for them, but I don't have the certainty that it will be so in their life. Therefore, I lay in bed and worry at night because there's something I want for them without the assurance that that thing will come true. And so there's worry. Or I really want my marriage to work out and honor and glorify God, but right now I don't see a way through, and what I want is for that thing to come true, but I don't have the assurance that it will. Therefore, there's the anxiety, there's the worry, there's the thing that keeps me up at night. Now, I want you to understand something about our will. It's not inherently sinful to have a will. Jesus had a will. And the reason we know that is in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, Father, if there's any way that you can have this cup, the cup of God's wrath that was poured out upon him upon the cross for all the sins of the world, he said, there's any way for us to go a different way and to not have to do this, please make a way. Nevertheless, what? Not my will, Jesus says, but yours be done. Jesus tells God the Father, not my will, but yours be done. And so us as human beings having a will isn't inherently sinful. I would argue our wills have been tainted by sin. Therefore, our wills can take us in very sinful directions all the time. But the presence of my will is not sinful. Just like it's not sinful for you to want your kid to be saved. That's a good thing. It's not sinful for you to want your marriage to work out and honor and glorify God. That's not a sinful thing. It's my will, it's what I'd like to see happen, and it's not sinful. But the presence of my will and my agenda and my emotions wanting a specific outcome without the certainty that that outcome is going to take place is the main driver of what causes this worry in my life. Like you think about it, in every area of your life, why do you lay in bed at night and worry about finances? Because you have an outcome that you want that you're worried isn't going to happen. Or you have an outcome you dread. We're going to lose everything, we're going to be homeless, and then everything turns to rubbish in 3 days. We go south really fast, let's just be honest. Also, another reason we do that is our brains, again, would rather have certainty. So if we can go to worst case scenario and just bet that's going to happen, that gives us a little bit more peace than just not knowing what's going to happen. So we're like, I'd rather think worst case scenario, right? I mean, let's just be honest. I'll be honest. Something a little bit bad happens, you're like, oh, this is the end. we will never recover from this. And it may not even be bad. Like 20 minutes later, be like, oh, actually, we're okay. But it's our will in either wanting something in the future without knowing it's going to come true or wanting to avoid something in the future with the fear that it will come true. That's what keeps us worried, whether it's a day in the future or 2 days in the future or 5 years in the future. And so I want you to understand that's what causes it, but having a will isn't inherently sinful. Where we get into trouble is when we hold on to it. What gets us in trouble isn't having a will, but holding on to it. Like a death grip, we hold on to it. That's where we get in trouble. And when you hold on to your will and you hold on to your agenda and you hold on to what you want to see in the future, depending on the severity of it, this is what we call control freaks. And at the severity of it, not only do you want to try to mitigate or eliminate some level of uncertainty in the future, but if you're really worried about it, maybe you go to great lengths and even sinful things and manipulation and lies and all these things to try to make sure that your outcome and your will is a thing that takes place in the future. And so the problem isn't having one, it's holding on to it. And when we hold on to it and we say, no, I'm going to make sure this is the outcome. I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure that my will is the thing that gets accomplished. When we do that, and we don't just have one, but we hold on to it, what we're saying at the end of the day, whether we realize it or not, is beyond a shadow of any doubt, God, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you to work in this situation. I don't trust you to work in the life of my kids. I don't trust you to work in the life of my spouse. I don't trust that you're in control of the job I have or the career I have. I don't trust that you're in control of where I go to college or if I go to college. I'm going to hold on to it with a death grip. And what you're really saying is, God, I don't trust you. God, I don't trust you. When you have a super tight grip on the control of your life, you're saying, God, I don't trust you. And I'm not saying that we don't have to make decisions, that we don't have some level of responsibility, like to have some control of our schedules. Like, you should probably have control enough and make a decision to get up early, spend some time with the Lord. I would argue you shouldn't eat just junk food all the time. You should probably eat something pretty good. Although junk food's amazing. That you should try to get a decent amount of sleep. Like some of that stuff you see on Instagram and social media, like that's not bad, that you have some level of decision-making power, right? I'm not talking about like kind of outlining your day and input. I'm talking about a death grip control at all costs. The way I want things to go, come hell or high water, I'm making things go my way. I don't care what it costs. I don't care who it hurts. Things are going my way. When we have this death grip on control. That's when our will becomes a problem, and it creates so much worry and anxiety because I have a death grip. The things that I want most in life, I have no certainty will come true. And that leads to a lot of worry and a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. And so the answer to that question we find a lot of in Philippians 4. Philippians 4. I'm going to start in verse 4 and just go to verse 7. Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. I want to go back to verse 6. It says, do not be anxious about anything. And if you look it up, that word anything literally means not even one. Now, I'm like, dude, if I could get down to just having one worry, you know what I mean? That'd be pretty good. Paul goes a step further. He's like, don't even have the one. I'm like, okay. All right, we'll start chipping away from like 1,000. He says, don't be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. I want to hone in on the first one, but in everything, by prayer. And you may ask, what does prayer have to do? We've been talking about my will and how me holding on to my will causes all this uncertainty and anxiety and fear and everything else. What does prayer have to do with that? If you look up prayer in the Greek, part of it is literally the exchange of wishes. The exchange of wishes. And so then if holding on to my will and holding on to the way I want life to go and having a death grip on it and trying to control everything, I think a lot of times the things that we proclaim as wisdom are really just worry in disguise. Not that it doesn't appear wise, but really we're just panicked and fretful, and so we're trying to do everything we can to try to maneuver all this stuff to make sure we're okay. Prayer is the exchange of wishes, which means the answer to me and you and our will and worry in our life is that I submit all of it to the Lord. That all of my wishes, all the ways I want life to go, all the things I want to see happen with my kids, with my family, or with my job, or with my future, all of it goes under His will. My submission of my will under His. How did Jesus make it to the cross? Not my will, but yours be done. And so the answer to the question of worry and what do I do with my will and all my expectations of the future is you submit those to the Lord and you say, they're all yours. They're all yours. I'm going to lay my will and put my will into submission under yours and say it's your will be done in my life. I'm going to take the thing that's most precious to me, my own life, my future, this one life that I have on this earth, the one life my kids have on this earth, the one life my spouse has on this earth, the one life, and I'm going to take what's most precious to me and I'm going to submit it to you. And just like last week, we started out saying it's easy to proclaim trust. It's another thing to possess trust. It is an easy thing, relatively speaking, to say, I've handed it over to God. It's another thing to hand it over to God. It's not this thing to take all your chips and say, I'm all in. I give everything to you. And the way you guide and the way you direct, that's what I'll do. And what you bring in and through my life and the circumstances that you choose to work in, so be it. I'm not going to have a death grip on my life anymore. I'm going to take what's most precious to me and I'm going to give it over to the Lord. And you ask, how can I really, I got one life. I got my future, I got things that I want to do, I got things that I want to see accomplished. How do I just hand it over to someone I maybe don't even know that well and to a God I can't see? I want to jump to 1 Peter 5, 6 and 7 right quick. He says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. And then he says, casting all your anxieties on him. Why? Why can I cast all my anxieties on him? Because he cares for me. And just out of curiosity, I looked at the word cared in Greek, and it means to be concerned about, to care about. The reason that you and I can take what's most precious to us, your life, your family's life, your future, and your today, and hand it to him, is because he cares for you. He's concerned about you and concerned about me. And maybe you've given your trust away to other people before and found out that they really didn't care about you. And you think that's the way it'll be with God, but it's not. God's so big, it says the earth is his footstool, that all the nations are as nothing before him, and he cares about you. Yes, you, in this room, in any of these seats, and for you at home. He cares about you, which is why you can give your life to him. Because he cares for you. Because he cares for you. And so it says by prayer, by that exchange of wishes. So I have that, and then I have supplication, which is literally asking for a specific felt need. God, I'm coming to you with my whole life. Here it is. Here's my wishes. Here's my wants, my desires. God, not my will be done, but your will be done. And then God, also, I need to pay rent at the end of the month, and I don't have any money. And that is a specific felt need, okay? If you could come through, that would be real sweet. With thanksgiving, God, I thank you for who you are. I believe who you are. He says, let all your requests be made known to him. Let all your requests, everything that you could possibly think of that's on your mind that causes you worry, offer it to him. Bring it to him. And then as you have legitimate, like God knows we live in a physical world. That's why he says, seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and he'll add everything else to you. And he says, don't worry about what you'll eat or what you'll drink or what clothes you'll put on. He says, I take care of the birds. I take care of the flowers. He says everything. So he's saying, I care for you. Let your request be made known to me. That exchanging of wishes. And then any needs you have, bring them to him. Bring them to him. And he says, when you do that, when you have that exchange of wishes, when you pray, when you ask him for your needs, whatever they may be, when you're thankful, and you've made all your requests made known to God, he says, then the peace of God, which surpasses understandings, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. But what I want you to understand is if you keep a tight grip on your will, and you keep a tight grip on your way and your agenda and the outcome that you've determined is the right outcome for your life. Also, another psychological side note, we're terrible. Research has shown terrible at predicting what will actually make us happy. Horrible. We don't know. I mean, how many times, let's be honest, how many times you get something, you're like, this is it. 2 days later, you're like, what they have is it. My 4-year-old son, Axel, he got a truck from his Mimi, loved it, had to take it everywhere. It was the greatest thing ever. 2 days later, Gaines comes in the house, he goes, Axel just beat the truck to death with a hammer. It's in 100 pieces. I'm like, I thought you liked the truck. He goes, yeah. I was like, all right. But like we are genuinely like psychologically, not even, this isn't Christians saying this, we don't know what will make us happy. We don't know what satisfies us. We think it's all these things. We get them, we're like, nope, that was it. It's the next one. But what I want you to know is that if you hold on to your way of life and you say, no matter what, this is the way I'm going and this is what I'm accomplishing and I'm going to fight tooth and nail and this is what's going to happen. I'm going to hold on to my life. You'll lose the life that God had for you. You'll lose the life. And this won't be on the screen, but I want to read it anyway. If you've been at church for any length of time, you've probably heard this scripture. It's Matthew 16, 24 and 25. He says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Whoever would save his life, that word is psyche, your mind, your will, your emotions, what makes you you. Whoever would save that will lose it. But whoever loses that, lays it down, casts it off, says, for my sake, he'll find it. There is a life God wants you to live that if you death grip your own life, you forfeit the life he has for you. You forfeit the life he has for you. And a lot of people, and this isn't untrue, only take that in a sense of what we get to live in physically. Like if you hold on to your life, you forfeit the career that God has for you, or you forfeit the calling that God has for you in this physical, tangible sense, which I would say is true. But what you forfeit that I believe is even more important is you forfeit the opportunity to really experience and know him. Show me somebody that is a control freak. I'll show you somebody who has hardly ever trusted God in their life. If you hold on to your outcomes in your life and you hold on to your will and you hold on to your agenda and you say, this is what I'm chasing after, then you're saying, God, I don't trust you with my future. I don't trust you with my life. I don't trust you with my kids. I don't trust you with my marriage. I don't trust you with my career. And so then the amount of God that you get to experience in those things will be incredibly limited because you're never laying it out for him to work in. You're never offering it up to him so that he can show you that he's really trustworthy. And so when we hold on to our will, we're going to forfeit really trusting God. We're going to forfeit the ability to gain trust in him. Because when we're sitting here and we're like, it's scary to really give everything to the Lord. And if you don't think it's scary, I'd argue you're not doing it. It's scary to do that. And the reason it's scary to put my trust of my entire life, my health, my career, my future, the reason that's scary is because I actually don't really trust him to begin with. Like Terry, my mother, Rachel, my wife, Rick, my father. I don't have to sit around and think, well, am I going to trust them? Like I really need to contemplate them. Am I going to choose to trust in them? No, I inherently trust them. I don't have to think about if I'm going to trust them. I do trust them. Now, is the heart deceitful above all things, and can they be foolish? And yeah, all that stuff, right? I trust them as much as I can trust any human. But they have my trust. But the fundamental reason that it's scary for us to put all of our life in God's hand is because I don't really trust him yet. If I really trusted, I want you to think about this. If I really trusted that God's sovereign, that he's good, that he has the best plan for my life, that he's sovereign, that he's all powerful, that he's already in tomorrow, and whatever I face tomorrow, he's already there with me. If I really believe that his course of life was best for me and that I really didn't know what's best for me, then I'd be like, please, literally, God, take it. The reason I don't feel that way is because I'm like, what if he has something for me that I don't like? Or what if his plan for me is not my plan for me? Because I want my plan for me. And so what I want you to know is we talk about trusting God and allowing worry to die and really trusting him. You have to take the step of actionable trust when you don't really trust him in order to actually build trust in him. Because what I want for my life is to have so much compounding actionable trust that I just innately trust who he is. To where I get to the place, because I am not there yet either. The innate trust just means it's just in me. It's just in me. When something pops up, you get that shot of adrenaline, you're like, oh my gosh. Then immediately I'm like, but God's good and he was already here with me before I even found out this news. Like this is a surprise to me. It's not a surprise to God. And I get to build innate trust in him through actionable trust. But if I never have the action of trust of giving my will and giving my life over to him, then I never get to develop real trust in him because I haven't given him anything. I haven't really put my trust in him at all. Therefore, I have no ability to see his trustworthiness. And so what I want you to know is that the way that you and I can really conquer worry and allow worry to die is ultimately trusting in God, but you'll never have trust in God if you don't submit all of who you are to him. If you don't surrender your will, your plans, your ways to him, and you hold on to your agenda, because remember what your agenda is a prediction of the future that you want to come true or that you want to avoid. And so I have to lay that down. I gotta lay it down. The band can join me. But even in that, we still have this pesky issue of uncertainty of the future. This pesky issue of the uncertainty of the future. And our desire to have certainty. Because you gotta remember, we were created for a perfect world with total communion with the Father and not saber-toothed tigers that were coming after us. Like, our system's not really built for the chaos of this world, which is evidenced by how poorly we survive in it half the time. But the issue of uncertainty, the way Christianity solves it, is not certainty of circumstance or certainty of outcome, but certainty in a person. And that person is Jesus Christ, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, sovereign over yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We don't solve for certainty by having a specific outcome in the future that we know will come true. Can God promise you a specific outcome? He can, and sometimes he does. Just like he did Joseph in the Old Testament. He said, your brothers will bow down to you. But Joseph didn't know that there was like 20 years of prison and a bunch of other stuff that stood in his way of that dream coming true. So even if God does give you a specific view of the future, we don't know how he's going to get you there, and neither do you. But for almost everything in life, we don't have a view of what the future will be as far as our circumstance. There is no certainty in that. But if I'll lay my life down before him, I can have certainty in him who holds my life. I can have certainty in the God of creation who spoke the universe into existence, who can do anything he wants. I can have certainty in that. Like in the Old Testament when the Israelites were being besieged and they were starving to death. And God comes and says, tomorrow, a loaf of bread will be, I don't remember how much money, but will be crazy cheap. And they were like, there's no way. There's no way. Like Food so scarce, they had mothers having to eat their own children to survive. It was that bad. And a prophet comes and says, tomorrow, bread will be sold for a penny. They said, no way. And then some beggars go out the next day or that night, and they find that the entire army that had been besieging them had scattered. God had sent something to terrify them, and they scattered. And guess what they left behind? All the food. And just as God had said, bread was sold, I don't know how much, but for a penny, that next day, just like he had promised. Like, our God is a God who can make a way where there is no way. And I think he takes great joy in it to say, this is who I am. You don't have to worry about a thing if you actually trust me. If you actually put your faith in me, if you'll actually believe me. Because it's not certainty of outcome, it's certain in a person who controls the outcomes. Why do you think Paul in Acts could say, I account my life of no value to me except to finish the race of testifying to the good news of the grace of Jesus Christ? Because he knew he had a God that he served that cared for him, that protected him. And what Paul had found, listen to me, what Paul had found is he found something better than life itself. He said, I've lost all things and I consider them rubbish compared to the surpassing worth of knowing Jesus Christ. You want to get over fear and you want to get over anxiety? Realize that you have a God who saved you, who will never leave you and forsake you, and that you can hold on to him. When he becomes the thing that is most precious to you, you will care a lot less about your life. That's my problem too, is when fear and anxiety creeps in, it's because I care too much about my life. And I'm no longer concerned with making his name great and his name known and remembering that for all of eternity, I'll be with him. All of a sudden, I've made it about this life. I've made it about 70 years here or 80 years here or 90 years here, and I've forgotten what's waiting for me. I've forgotten about the life that I can have right now if I give him my life, if I trust him with my health, if I trust him with my future, if I trust him with my family. And I know that there's no greater thing in this life than that I can be in his presence. That's what's missing from our lives, is deep intimacy with Jesus. You know what he says? He says, abide in me and I'll abide in you, and in me you'll bear much fruit. And if you go to Galatians 5, the fruit that we bear is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control. Peace. If we abide in him and he is our greatest treasure, we will have peace. If our treasure is this life, we will be filled with nothing but worry and anxiety, because we'll have a future that is uncertain and we won't know if we'll get the things that we want. But if what we want really is him and him alone, he'll take care of everything else and we'll be fine because we have the thing we really want. So if we want to let worry die, we become an intimate friend of Jesus. We give him our will and allow him to show us how trustworthy he is. We give him our future and we allow him to show us how trustworthy he really is. We give him our future because the thing that we ultimately want most is him, even if it costs us our future. And we can do that because he is a God who cares for us. We can lay our life down because he is a God who is concerned about us. Let's pray.